All right. Hello, can everyone hear me? Let me go ahead and turn down the music here. Let's see. Can everyone hear me? We all good? Did you know there's an F0 version of this? Oh, you've started analyzing the songs without me. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yes, Mario Kart 8 has an F-Zero track. They have a Legend of Zelda track. They have an Animal Crossing track. And they're represented very, very well. Awesome. Okay. So, hey, let's get into it. I know that there was a lot of grades that came out last night. 2 big grades, your P2 Gold and your P3 Milestone 2. There was also your Freelancer extra credit grades came out. So if maybe things didn't go super well, hey, don't panic. There is extra credit on the way that will help things out a lot. And typically, this third week tends to be one of the toughest. This third deliverable of the Project 3, right in the middle of the project. This is when a ton of games kind of make the leap. They find their identity. And then the next few weeks are all about polishing, balancing, maybe adding a little bit of content and refining the content you already have. But if the grades didn't go super well, don't panic, okay? Hang in there. There are a lot of points still on the board. There's a lot of extra credit points that will be coming your way pretty soon. And, we're almost there, okay? We're almost there. So chin up and keep rolling, all right? A few announcements. How many of you are kind of ready? You know, you've got an internship lined up, you've got a job lined up, or grad school lined up. Anyone in chat got that going on? It's okay if you don't. Many of you in this course, though, because it's a capstone, because it's an MDE, many of you are graduating relatively soon. And so I've got a technique for you, okay? A technique that can really, really help the onboarding process at your new company, your new team, your new research lab. Here's how it happens, okay? When you jump onto a team, what there usually is you have some sort of mentor. You're given a mentor who's sort of responsible for you, and they are going to be around to answer any questions you have and try and get you up to being a productive member of the team as fast as possible. Now, your mentor, whether that's a manager on your team at a company, or the head of your startup you're joining, or the head of your research lab that you're joining, what they're probably going to say is, come to me with any questions, okay? Have you heard that before? But secretly, they're kind of hoping you won't, okay? Because an intern or a new employee or a new team member is actually really, really expensive. And I'm not just talking about the fact that you pay them. I'm talking about the fact that you need to take time away from your tasks as a manager, as a mentor, and you need to spend them trying to get your mentee, your new team member, up to speed. So they kind of hope that you'll be able to figure things out on your own, but they know you'll come to them with a bunch of questions. So here's the technique, okay? Instead of just going back to that one mentor every time you have a problem or you have a question, what you do is this. You have a list of the people on your team, and you have a pointer that points to the next person you're going to go to for a question. Kind of round robin style. What happens is when you have a question, you look at your list and you say, who's the next person I'm going to talk to? And then you go to that person, you ask the question, you get it solved, and then you increment that pointer. You move that pointer down your list. So now the next time you have a question or comment, you're going to go to that new person. You're going to meet someone new. And meanwhile, you're getting your questions answered, but you're distributing your question. You're distributing the burden of the intern, not across one person, but across your entire team. What this does is your mentor, who expects a ton of questions from you, will only have a few questions, and they'll see you getting really productive by asking very few questions. That is a really, really good look. They'll be super happy about that, right? But the rest of your team members will also only get a couple questions, and so they won't be annoyed, but they'll meet you, right? So with this process, You spare your mentor, which they will very much appreciate. You get your problem solved, which is really, really good for becoming a productive member of the team. And you get to meet your teammates, which is going to be really, really good. Building those relationships early and showing that you ask good questions and you get a lot of stuff done from the questions that you do ask. So anyway, that's the technique, team. I've used it a couple times before, and it has been very successful wherever I've used it, okay? So consider it when you get onto your new team. Consider distributing the burden of all of your questions instead of centralizing them on one person, okay? All right, so well done on your P3 milestone 2. Like I said earlier, this is often your toughest deliverable. Only 3 deliverables left, alpha, beta, and gold. The point values for these final 3 deliverables is going to go up pretty high. Your P3 gold deliverable, I think, is 64 points. So with the value of these deliverables increasing, you want to make sure that you are avoiding any penalties. You're having everyone check to make sure that you have everything that you need for your submission, and you'll be fine, okay? All right, a quick story from cross country. When I was in high school, I was on the track and cross country teams, and I was at an interesting position on those teams. I was usually either the last place person on the varsity team or the captain of the junior varsity team, depending on what week it was. And so I had a lot of potential to really either impact my team in a positive way or in a negative way based on my performance in that week's cross-country meet. And so what I noticed was, we would go out on these 14-mile runs sometimes. And if that sounds long, it felt long. And I would be running along, I'd be running along with some of my teammates who were, older than I was, who'd been on the team longer, and who was about the same pace as I was. And what I noticed that was really frustrating to me was when the coach would find us, the coach would park along the course that we were running. The coach would see me running and jogging along with this larger group, and he'd throw his hat down and say, "God damn it, Yarger, get your ass up there! Go, go, go! What are you doing?" Right? And he'd lose it. It'd be very scary in a way. And I'd pick it up and I'd try and pick my pace up to where the coach wanted it. After a while, this really got frustrating for me. It was embarrassing in a way, and it was frustrating. Coach, why are you still picking on me? Why are you singling me out when I'm running right next to all my teammates here? Now, I thought Coach just maybe had it out for me, but actually that was not the case. In fact, it was the opposite. So what I discovered was that the teammates that I'd been running with, they were at the end of their careers. They'd kind of plateaued in their abilities. They'd really stopped improving very much. And so Coach essentially had lost a bit of interest, right? I mean, why give feedback and critique when you're just not seeing any change? However, when Coach looked at me, I was still pretty young in my career. I still had a lot of potential. And so I got called out quite a lot, right? Pushing for more. What I realized was Coach really just wanted me to meet my potential. I discovered, ironically, that if your coach seems frustrated with you, then you need to improve. If your coach seems content with you and isn't very emotional, then that's probably because you're getting cut next week, because essentially they've given up on you. Now, the reason I bring this up is that I feel bad about some of the intensity that we sometimes have in our video feedbacks as a staff. Like in particular, sometimes I get a little bit enthusiastic when I shouldn't. Sometimes, and I apologize for this, I'm a little bit more negative than I should be. And it's not because I'm angry. It's because I really, really see the potential in your project and in you, okay? There's nothing worse than putting a ton of effort in, and then in the last few weeks, it just kind of, we coast a little bit, and maybe we don't get it done, and you don't meet your potential, right? You've worked too hard for that, right? You deserve an incredible showcase, showing. You deserve to have tons of fans playing your game and commenting in the Discord server and showing you how far they made it and all the cool mechanics that you put time into, all the great design decision you made, having impact on the showcase day. And so that's why sometimes we get a little bit more enthusiastic and animated during our feedback than we should. And I apologize for that. But hey, I want to see you achieve what you deserve, and sometimes we gotta make some changes to make that happen. Okay. So anyway, keep your chin up. Okay. Don't let our feedback, even if it's a little bit intense, get you down. Okay. You're all doing an amazing job. Just think. 3-4 months ago, many of you probably hadn't worked on a single game, and now you're working on games that I think would honestly be considered some of the best student games in the state. Okay? And we don't even have a game dev program. So keep your chin up and keep moving forward. You can do it, and we believe in you. Okay? All right. So I have a note for you on the topic of controls and ergonomics and multiplexing, particularly when it comes to fingers. Okay? So when you think about your control scheme, actually I can make my window a little bit bigger here too. When you think about your control scheme, what's a really important concept is multiplexing. So, can you have your fingers do multiple things? Okay, and when can you not have that happen? That's a little bit confusing. Here's a concrete example. Many games will use the WASTA keys for movement, okay? So if you put your hand right now, your 3 kind of middle fingers on A, W, and D, and S, those are keys that typically correspond to movement. Now, some games will also use the E key, E for interact. Now, one of the interesting things about pressing E is you're probably going to do it with your index finger, but your index finger is also assigned to the D key. This is to say that it is usually not possible for a player to both interact with something and move to their right at the exact same time. You can't be pressing the D key and the E key with one finger at the same time. You technically can, but it's super awkward. You can bring your middle finger over to hit D and E at the same time, but it's a very, very rare and pretty uncomfortable formation to do with your fingers. And so this is why sometimes in your feedback video, what we'll say is you need to reconsider your controls. If you want to be able to move around and do something else at the same time, then you probably want to put that interaction key on the other hand, okay? Which can do other things at the exact same time as your WASTA hand or your arrow key hand, and allow the player to just be more expressive in their movements, to be more comfortable and stuff like that. So your interaction key might go to something like the dot or the comma, which your other hand can kind of comfortably rest over there and easily trigger those. Okay, so that's just a quick note, and I've left an example right in here for you. Now, I tried to play this game, Star Witch, last section, but unfortunately my computer lagged too much on the stream when I did, so we can't play it. But I want to get back to showing you previous P3 projects that went really well. And Star Witch is an example of one of those. It is a really cool kind of 8-bit game created by the Lunar Ladies Studio. And it has not only a cohesive style, but it also has just a fantastic sprinkling of narrative and context between each level, okay? So we can actually watch the trailer here to kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about. This is a 2D platforming game, a puzzle game. It uses great parallax as well. I'll shrink myself here. And so when you start the game, you get this really nice cutscene that just begins immediately from the title screen. And you get a little bit of context. Your Star Witch is kind of traveling the galaxy and trying to resolve these problems that are being caused by the Chaos Witch. The Chaos Witch is the antagonist of the game, and you see her messing with each environment as you go into each new level. You enter into a level, and one of the first things you see is the Chaos Witch spawning enemies and then escaping through this portal. You then have to go through the level solving the puzzles that you'd expect to see. But there are also inhabitants of these worlds. Each world has its own inhabitants, such as these crystal characters, these tree characters. You can see this tree character right here has this enemy on top of its head. And so you need to help the tree character and shoot this enemy off, right? These tiny little things really give a compelling motive to the player, a long-term objective, right? Rescue every planet and then stop the Chaos Witch who is bringing this destruction everywhere. So these little bits of narrative are really, really powerful and make the entire game feel more consequential as a result. Until at the very, very end, you actually get a showdown with the Chaos Witch. This provides an appropriate climax to end the game on. So anyway, what I'm saying is, if you haven't thought about this yet, you probably want to think about not only how your puzzles and game mechanics progress, but also what kind of maybe minimalistic story are you going to weave into this environment? When is the player going to see the story advance or interact with the story and the characters that drive it? Is it going to be between each level? Is it going to be within the level itself? They'll find this item, and this item has a note on it which describes this awful event that happened. And then later on, you'll find another note which describes how the event carried forth. And then you'll eventually find the person who wrote the note, and they're grateful for your help or something, right? That could be an effective way, yet minimal way, to kind of weave a story into your gameplay, okay? Anyway, it's not a long game. Like most 494 games, it's going to last about 15 to 20 minutes for you. I encourage you to play it. Very fun, fantastic puzzles, excellent, excellent pacing, okay? All right. So, we have a mini lecture for you. Many of your games are starting to develop as far as their aesthetics, as far as the juice, as far as the feedback and guidance of your game. One tool that could be extremely powerful for this is the line render. Chat, has anyone in chat used the line render component? Has anyone used the line render component? Has anyone heard of it? I think we might have briefly mentioned it previously in a previous lecture.